Today's gospel reading, and the church has a wonderful practice for us in the sense that the gospel readings are always preceded by a reading of a psalm, and oftentimes the psalm is where we can find a wonderful message. Can we get the reading on the screen, please? Thank you. So before we read the psalm, if you can just put up on the screen, thanks. So before we read the psalm, I'm just going to give a little bit of context on where we are in the Gospel of St. John. So it's going to be St. John, Gospels, chapter 6, verses 22 to 27. So what happens in the previous portions of the Gospel of St. John, chapter 6? Very simple. We all know the story of the feeding the 5,000 and Jesus walking on water. So those are the verses preceding, just before. So just to give a little bit of context of where we are in the Gospel, in the chapter. So obviously, the beautiful contemplations on the feeding of the 5,000. I'm sure we can take wonderful messages. And then, of course, Christ walking on water is amazing because it teaches us that oftentimes we take our focus off of Christ and we look at what he's doing. And this is the message, is what are we focusing on and what's on our inside. And so when we focus on Christ walking on water, the disciples did, they were mesmerized. And they're like, how is he walking on water? And then they took their focus off Christ and they were thinking about how he was walking on water. So I think that's the message. We want to say, let's stay focused on Christ and not think about like how he was like walking on water. So we'll read the few verses together just to remind ourselves what they were. On the following day, when the people were standing on the other side of the sea, they saw that there was no other boats except that the one which his disciples had entered, and that Jesus had entered the boat with his disciples, and his disciples had gone alone. Sorry, Jesus had not entered with his disciples, and his disciples had gone alone. However, the other boats came from Tiberias near the place where they ate the bread, and after the Lord had given thanks. When the people therefore saw Jesus was not there, nor his disciples, they also got in boats and came to Capernaum seeking Jesus. And when they found him, and on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, when did you come here? Jesus answered them and said, Most assuredly I say to you, you seek me not because of the signs, but because you ate the loaves that were filled. Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him. All right. So if we can go back to the psalm, and this is how we're going to tie everything in. Sorry. So the psalm that precedes the gospel says, Honor and majesty are set before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Sanctuary is going to be the key word. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised, for he is feared above all gods. So, honor and majesty are set before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary, for the Lord is great and greatly to be praised, for he is feared above all gods. So what is this business about Jesus saying to them, instead of answering the question, like, where did you come from? What did he say? In verse 26, he said, Most assuredly I say to you, you seek me not because of the signs, but because you ate the loaves and were filled. So we just said that there was the feeding of the 5,000, and that just happened. And so he's rebuking them almost, and he's saying, you're focused on, these signs and things that are going to perish. In the next verse, it says, Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures for everlasting life, which is the Son of Man, that will give you, because God the Father has set a seal for him. So the simple message, and we'll wrap up very quickly, is what are we doing on the inside? Like, sometimes we get distracted by the things on the outside. We get distracted by the signs. We focus on Christ walking on the water. But our focus on our inside and our focus on Christ should be on the inside, not on the things. Like, Christ is almost rebuking them, saying, but he's answering them. He's like, you came after me because, like, I fed you, and you were looking for that sign, right? So what are we doing on our inside? So the message, very simply for all of us, obviously, is what are we doing on our inside to prepare, and are we just laboring, as it says, and laboring for the food that's going to perish, or are we focused on that inside? So again, don't take your focus off Christ, very simply. Don't take your focus off Christ. Focus on what it is, your salvation. He is the bread of life. He is someone that we can focus on, and he's the one that's going to nourish us and feed us. But the idea is when we focus inwardly and when we focus on Christ, we're not distracted by the world. We're not distracted by big signs that he just fed all the people, but that we're focused on Christ on the inside. It's a very simple message. How that ties in with the psalm, very simply, it's that inner sanctuary word. So honor and majesty are set before him. So those are the big signs. And yes, we follow Christ and we do all those wonderful things. And we see Christ when he's walking on water. And we have strength and beauty are in the sanctuary, or if we want to say like inner sanctuary. So it's that beauty and that strength that we hold to. And when we hold to that beauty and that strength, and we set the honor and majesty before him. So we honor and we follow God and we follow the signs and we see everything. But it's that inner peace, it's that inner sanctuary, it's that inner journey that we take with Christ, that we focus on when he's walking on water, and we don't focus on the big sign. But if we take our eyes off the prize, if you will, and we just focus on that inner beauty. I don't know if that's making any sense to anyone, but ultimately, if we can just spend a few minutes just continuing with worship and just remember there's a message there for all of us, whether the message was clear or thought out or prepared beforehand. I apologize, but just want to make sure that everyone got a message and that we did everything as normally as possible, and that God can bless the rest of our weeks and give us a peaceful heart for the remaining days. Thanks.